Alright, and we are back with what should be the last one here. We should be able to finish it up here. So, we've got our features in here. We've got our center cut. We've got our two nubs here. We've got our cutouts here. We've got one more feature and then some properties that we have to deal with. So the feature first, let's go ahead and do that. We've got a cutout back here. So the first thing we need to do is we need to select our sketch surface. It's going to be this surface right here. So we're going to click on that surface, go to our sketch tool, and we're looking right at it. So next up, let's go ahead and create our shape. So our shape here is going to be a rectangle with a circular edge on it. So I'm going to do this a little bit different than the book. The book doesn't really go through how we're going to sketch this. I am. So first, what I would do in this case, I'm going to go ahead and hit my S key. I'm going to go ahead and get my 2-point corner rectangle. And then again, similar to the way that we did the last one, I know that I want to be coincident with this edge. So I'm going to click on that edge first. With that edge selected, I'm just going to go out here, and go ahead and click. And now I've got just a general rectangle. Next thing I want to do is I want to put that circle in. So I'm going to hit my S key. I'm going to go down to the circle tool. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Remember, I've noticed a lot of this with a lot of different people. And it's not just you guys. We're talking professional guys here that I help who don't zoom in. Have no fear to zoom in. If there is finite detail work you need to do, or you need to make sure that you click on a point, or you're having a problem selecting an edge, zoom in. There's no downside to zooming in. Make that thing bigger. We have big monitors for a reason. So make that thing big. Zoom in on it. Make the selection. It's going to be way quicker to zoom in, click, and zoom out than it is to click 3 or 4 different times. All right. So anyway, I'm in my circle tool now. I'm going to go over here because this circle is going to be it's going to be in line with this edge and this edge here. And it's only going to be a semicircle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. I'm going to click on the center line here. So if I click on that with my circle tool, now I've got my circle. It's coincident with the midpoint. I'm going to come straight up, and I'm going to click on this top edge. So now I've got that tangent on this top edge. Now I'm going to do this a little bit different than the book, because the book has you getting rid of this edge and this edge. But if you get rid of that edge and that edge, then that's going to mess up what we've got going on down here. This is no longer going to be locked in, and you're just going to run into some issues. So first up, let's go ahead and let's put some dimensions in. So our first dimension is going to be from this far edge over to this line here. This is technically the center line of this circle. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the center point of that circle, and that's going to be 2 inches. Next up is going to be from, okay, so they also have us doing a center line. So let's do two, or they don't have us doing a center line, sorry. So let's go ahead and our next one, grab our dimension tool. Next one's going to be from the origin here, it's way down here, up to the center point of this circle. So I'm going to go ahead and click, and you can see that we've got 3 different dimensions options similar to the way that we had with our 3-point rectangle before. So here we've got the kind of as the crow flies linear dimension. If I come up here, we've got our horizontal dimension, and if I come over here, we've got our vertical dimension. So we want the vertical dimension. It's going to be 2.625. Enter, and there we go. And lastly, we want our radius down here. Before we do our radius, I'm going to do something. So this is a whole circle, right? We want a semicircle. So what we need to do is we need to get rid of this guy back here. So I'm going to go ahead and do my trim tool, and I'm going to trim just that back half, and I'll show you why here in a second. Next, I'm going to go ahead and hit my dimension tool, and let's go ahead and put that 0.5 radius in there. Okay, by now you're probably noticing the issue that I just introduced here. So we've got a solid line here, and then we've got model geometry here. So I've got one trick that's going to change all of that. It's going to make this all one single enclosed place. It's going to keep all of our dimensions and all of our relationships. All right? So the book wants you to delete or not use this line right here. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here into my options. I'm going to click For Construction. Now with For Construction clicked, that line is no longer a viable model geometry line. Meaning that our model geometry is now that, and that. So now we have a fully enclosed space. I didn't lose any of my references. I've got this edge here, which means that this line and this line are always going to be they're always going to be equal length because we've got this vertical line here that's attaching kind of everything together. Okay? So that's what I wanted to tell you guys was to use. This is how I like to do slots in this case. You can actually use the slot tool, and it would even be better than the way that they've got you kind of sketching it out in the book. But this way, everything is kind of tied down. You don't have to worry about vertical relationships between this point here and this point here. You don't have to worry about the center point because the center point's already locked in there. So all of that to basically just say that this is a quick way to be able to handle that and not lose your relationships. So let's go ahead and exit that tool now. And we're back into our 3D model space. We need to do an extrude cut. And that extrude cut is going to be a depth of 0.75. All right. And with that 0.75 selected, we can go ahead and hit our green check mark. And that is our finished component. You can see that we've got these two verticals. We've got that notch we just created. We've got our center bore and counter bore. And then we've got our two things up here and our overall kind of elongated, flattened out circle. Okay, so this is an actual CSWA model. I have seen students do this model before in CSWA courses, or in CSWA tests, okay? So up to this point, it's been pretty standard, right? Pretty much what we've been doing all semester. So next what you need to do is we're on page 21-12 now. Now 21-12, we've got two different things to change here. So we've got the minimum alloy, or the alloy type. So we need to change the material. So to change the material, what we're going to do is we're going to come back over here to our model tree. Okay, so we've got our model tree. It's been here the whole time. We've been using it the whole time. But we have yet to use the material option, which is right above the planes. So if I right-click the material option, I can go to the option Edit Material. That's going to bring up this. This is a prompt with just a ton of different materials. SolidWorks already has all of these materials already preloaded with all of their densities, all of their strengths, and yield strengths and stuff. So what this lets us do is this lets us get proper weight. It lets us get proper strength, and it lets us do simulations on these with realistic expectations of results. They're never perfect. Computer simulations are very difficult to get perfect, but they at least give you an idea of what to expect if the thing is out in real life. And to do that, you have to know the material. Okay, so the material that we're going to be using is aluminum. I just clicked the caret to the side of steel to drop that down. We're going to go down to aluminum alloys, and we want 1060 alloy, this very first one, 1060. So I'm going to hit that. I'm going to hit apply, and you can see that the color changed on this, indicating that we now have a new material. Okay, so the very last thing that we need to do now is we need to find the mass on this thing. And what we're actually going to do, so the book's asking for the mass, but I'm going to show you how to find one better too. So the reason that it's looking for the mass on this is because the way that the CSWA exam judges how you did is based on the mass. When you go out to 3 decimals on a pound mass system, generally speaking, that's close enough that they're going to be able to tell if you're off. Like if you put in, what are these? I don't even know. Were they like 1 inch back, I think? If you put in 0.9 on those or 1.1 on those, they're going to be able to tell that something's off, and they're going to duck you for the points for it, okay? So to find the mass, now that we've got all this, we're going to go up to the Evaluate tab. So we've been through the Features tab, we've been through the Sketch tab, now we're going to go to the Evaluate tab. The Evaluate tab is general measurement properties for the environment. The two that I use the very most are Measure. If you click on Measure, that just gives you a quick little measure tool to be able to measure distances. So you can see here our bore is 2.5 inches. You can click here and you can see the radius is 1.25. So we got the measurement tool. I'm going to go ahead and get out of that. And then 2 over from that is the Mass Properties tool. I'm going to click on that. And now you can see that we've got all of this stuff. Okay? So here you can see that our mass on this particular component is 30 pounds, 61 ounces. However, we want 3 decimals, right? Okay, so in this case, to get these 3 decimals, there's not a quick way to be able to do it from here. You can go up here, but it's generally easier to go ahead and close your mass properties and go down to the right-hand side. We've done this before. Down on the right-hand side are our unit systems. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and I'm going to click on Edit Document Units. Okay, so now I'm going to edit document units. So we've gone through all of our lengths and stuff. We can go ahead and change that to 3 because we did use a couple with 3. But the big one that we need to change here is down one section. So we've got basic units, and we've got mass section properties. Length, which don't pay attention to like length, mass, and all that stuff. What we need here, this length is not like the length of the mass. Like mass doesn't have length. This is the length of the decimal places. Okay? So we're going to come over here. We're going to click this. And we're going to go down to 3 decimal places. You can see 1, 2, 3. We're going to go ahead and hit OK. Now the next time we hit our mass properties, now we've got that extra decimal place. We've got 30 pounds, 6.07. Okay? Or 0.607. So 30 pounds, 0.607. All right? So that is how you find your mass on those. I'm not going to make you put in the mass on this one because the mass on this one, I just gave it to you. So if you type that in, you're going above and beyond. But when you finish this, you can double check your mass against mine. Again, it's 30.607 pounds on mine. You can double check that, and you can see if you got it right or if you had a minor fluctuation in how you did it. Okay? So that's it, guys. That is how you do this first practice exam. Remember, for next class, we want this turned in. All of these are going to be turned in their native SolidWorks files. Okay? Sorry, the 2 models are going to be turned in as SLD PRT SolidWorks parts. The other one is going to be that quiz that's inside this. It's multiple choice. You'll just go through it on there. So, yeah, so the homework would be the quiz portion, and then the next model section that starts on page 21-13. That is a wheel. Don't let it intimidate you. It's got a lot of stuff in it, but just work it out. Take it kind of slow. Work on it. Remember, we're going to draw our design, and then we're going to start narrowing things down with dimensions. With this particular one, I would probably try to make it on the big side. How big is this? Big or small, it doesn't really matter. Dimension the one on the outside first. So that first, once you get your entire profile made, and we're talking about this the second assignment. Once you get your profile made, go ahead and dimension it, and remember that first dimension is going to scale. So the first dimension, go ahead and dimension the outside, because that's going to scale everything in or everything out. Don't do the inside one. It's a little easier when you scale the outside one in this particular case. Okay? So, with that, thank you guys. I hope that you guys can get through all this pretty well. I'm still working on what our final exam is going to be. We're probably going to cover a little bit more CSWA next week, and then we'll work on exams and go from there. So, thanks, guys, and I'll see you on Wednesday when we have our Zoom meeting. Okay, I'm doing Zoom meetings every Wednesday at 4 o'clock, our normal class time. If you guys need additional help beyond that, please let me know, and I'll work something out with you to get with you. All right, thanks, guys. Bye.